Hi, my name is Shannon Welles. I'm going to take you on a journey to the Showbox, an iconic live music venue in Seattle, Washington that is under threat of demolition. I have worked at the Showbox for 18 years, as a merch seller, in the box office and coat check, as a house manager, and recently as the assistant general manager. I started Friends of The Showbox nearly 2 years ago to unite the preservation and music communities in the campaign to save the Showbox. Although the Showbox is now a designated city landmark, it is not yet saved. The Showbox is a place infused with history and spirit. For 18 years, I have had the pleasure of watching people dance, cry, and sing together, building community through music. I am grateful for every moment I have spent in the Showbox, and the thought of losing it crushes me. Currently, our stage is dark, and the doors shuttered for another reason. Coronavirus emptied our streets and businesses 10 weeks ago. We don't know when live music will return to the stage, and I never thought I would live a year of my life without the Showbox, let alone live music. Seattle, this is my love letter to you, to the music scene that called to me from across the country in the 90s and nurtured me when I arrived, to the staff of the Showbox whose faces and hugs I miss more than anything, to the artists and touring crew who are struggling to survive, and to all the music fans who feel adrift without live music. In this presentation, I'll give a short history of the Showbox, but I will mostly focus on its cultural significance, because this is the realm I personally know. Buildings are more than utilitarian structures. Their meaning and significance come from the community, from the relationships people form with the place itself and with other people in that place. Humans are hardwired for music. Singing may have been our first language, and music may be our last. For instance, music appreciation lasts longer than language and memory in Alzheimer's patients. Music has served many functions over millennia, from ceremony to celebration, from creating group cohesion to experiencing emotions that words cannot convey. Music continues to do this today, stimulating curiosity and empathy across cultures and creating joyful and transformative experiences. Music is the world's universal language and connector, but we need places in which to gather and listen. And some places are designed for gathering and listening. The Showbox is one such place. At the heart of the community's love for the Showbox is our relationship to music, to memory, and to each other through music. These relationships should not be dismissed as nostalgia. It's much deeper than that. Music is part of being human. For some of us, it is part of our identity and akin to breathing. The Showbox turns 81 this July. Some of you may have never experienced a live show at the Showbox. If you walk by on the street, you may not notice the building, or you may think it unremarkable. But I assure you, there is magic inside. The building that houses the Showbox was built in 1917 by Charles Fry to be the central public market and to compete with the Pike Place Market across the street. Charles and Emma Fry are best known today for donating their art collection to Seattle and creating the Fry Art Museum. In 1939, Mike Lyons, theater owner, redeveloped the building as a dine and dance club. He traveled to the East Coast to tour the popular clubs and theaters of the time, and he hired architect Bjarne Moe to design the remodel. The flower petal lighting columns and dome ceiling were installed at this time, and an entrance of plush carpeting led to the spring action maple dance floor. The Showbox opened on July 24th, 1939, and was dubbed the Palace of the Pacific. It was the end of the Great Depression and the eve of World War II. With modern furniture, an electric organ, and a screen for 16mm films, the Showbox was open for music and dancing from noon until 1 a.m. The Showbox featured many musical talents during the 40s and 50s, including performers such as Louis Armstrong, the Duke Ellington Orchestra, Jimmy Durante, and Sammy Davis Jr. In 1942, local trombone player Johnny Kearns opened Kearns Music Shop in the retail space next to the Showbox, selling instruments, sheet music, and private music lessons. He broadcasts performances from the front window on radio station KJR and claims Frank Sinatra, Nat King Cole, and Sarah Vaughan all sang in his shop. In 2014, the Green Room Lounge alongside the venue was renamed Kearns Music Shop in honor of Johnny Kearns. The Showbox closed in 1949 due to financial trouble, but reopened in 1951. Norm Hoagie and his orchestra recorded a song titled Showbox Boogie at the Showbox in 1952. You can find it on YouTube if you'd like to give it a listen. In 1955, the Showbox closed again. It was vacant for some years, and in the early 60s was home to Showbox furniture. By 1967, the venue reopened as The Happening, hosting live performances through 1972. In 1975, the space became a bingo hall for the Talmud Torah Hebrew Academy. This image shows the Talmud Torah and bingo on the marquee in the background of the 1977 Gay Pride Parade. By the end of the decade, music promoters Modern Productions started booking the space for live music and quickly brought back the Showbox name for the venue. They hosted scores of punk, rock, and British New Wave bands, as well as legends like James Brown. It's important to note that many local bands also played the Showbox stage. Small to mid-sized venues are essential for bands to build audiences and hone their skills. These venues are stepping stones to other bands in bigger venues, because stardom takes work. For example, in 1982, Malfunction played the Showbox. This is graffiti they left behind in the loft above the stage, and it's still there today. Their singer, Andy Wood, went on to form Mother Love Bone in '87, and two of Mother Love Bone's bandmates, Stone Gossard and Jeff Ament, formed Pearl Jam in 1990. As a teenager in Florida in the early 90s, I heard Mother Love Bone and Pearl Jam and turned my attention to the Pacific Northwest. I would not be here today without them, and many others would say the same. In 1985, the venue closed again, except for some one-off events. In 1990 and 94, there were two comedy clubs active in the space. In '96, the Showbox Music Club was opened by local restaurant owner Jeff Steichen. For some of us today who love the Showbox, its cultural significance stems from the Modern Productions era of the '80s and the music club era starting in the mid-'90s. Everyone played there, including our Northwest greats: Mudhoney, Soundgarden, Screaming Trees, Melvins, Pearl Jam, The Posies, Death Cab for Cutie. The list is too massive to detail here. Steichen sold the business in 2008 to AEG Live, who operates the club to this day. For over 80 years, the club has passed through different hands in management, but the Showbox Theater and name persisted because it meant something to the community. So what makes a place culturally significant? For some, it's the physical features and their consistency over time. The Showbox has several signature features: the marquee, the sprungwood dance floor, the Art Deco flower petal columns, and the dome ceiling. With the exception of the marquee, all are original features of the 1939 remodel. In 1981, the original marquee was taken down. In '94, the one you see today was installed. The marquee itself is a Seattle icon. People pose in front of it before shows and share these posts on social media. The venue staff changes the marquee frequently, displaying upcoming shows, sharing news of venue staff birthdays or anniversaries, sharing grief when we lose community members, and posting positive messages in times of crisis. The marquee is a way for the venue to engage with the local neighborhood, and thousands see it daily from the market. The Seattle Urban Sketchers stopped by the Showbox in 2019 to sketch the marquee and the entrance. These are just a few of the things that make up a neighborhood and a community. There are only a handful of sprungwood dance floors left in West Coast venues from the early 20th century. Most venues have cement floors. When you dance and jump on a sprung floor, it absorbs shock and moves with you. It's quite an experience to jump in unison with 800 people. The stage moves with you. The front end dips up and down with the floor. The performers move with you. With the columns glowing around you, the lights filling the dome ceiling, and the floor moving with you, you feel you are part of a special place. A place is culturally significant when it becomes part of your identity, either your personal identity or that of your cities. Seattle has been a West Coast mecca for live music for decades, and the Showbox played an integral part in establishing this reputation. The theater is woven into the identity of many Seattleites. Many saw their first live show there. People make lifelong friends and fall in love there. People have gotten engaged and some even married on stage. Parents bring their kids to experience their first show. People travel from all over the world to visit Seattle's iconic music spots. Countless fans have wandered into the Showbox during the daytime to see where their Seattle heroes played. I always let them look because I did this myself in 1999. Touring musicians and crew regard the Showbox as one of the best venues in the country, on par with the Fillmore in San Francisco, First Avenue in Minneapolis, and the 930 Club in DC. I know this because they tell me so. Seattle musicians also love the Showbox. Small bands dream of selling out the Showbox and seeing their name in lights on the marquee. Bands who have made it big return because they love the acoustics and intimate vibe of the venue. The Showbox has history and spirit. A place is culturally significant when you drop everything to save it. When news broke in 2018 of developer plans to demolish the Showbox to build luxury housing, a collective howl rose from the city. This cry was fierce, immediate, and full of love for a place that matters as much to the young today as to those who were young in the 80s and 90s. Thousands signed petitions to save the Showbox. Hundreds showed up to City Council to protest the demolition. Hundreds more had their portraits taken for the Save the Showbox Portrait Project. Two of my favorite signs read, "It's within those walls that I discovered my heart," and "Dearest Seattle, don't forget where you came from." A place is culturally significant when its meaning matters. To the community, it's the relationships formed and our experience within these spaces that matter most. It's the hours spent dancing and singing with friends and strangers alike. We create and maintain community with these joyful experiences. Have you ever witnessed 1,000 people singing every word of their favorite song together? It's an incredible power to behold. After 18 years, I still get chills, and sometimes I cry. The Showbox is irreplaceable. It has lived-in energy. If we lose this magical place, it can't be recreated, so we can't lose it. My deepest gratitude goes out to Historic Seattle, Friends of Historic Belltown, and Vanishing Seattle for submitting the Showbox's successful landmark nomination. To work alongside these preservation champions has been a great honor. They understand that our landmarks are relevant, active spaces today. Our work is not yet done, and we can always use your help. For updates on the Save the Showbox campaign, please visit historicseattle.org and friendsoftheshowbox.org. Until we can meet again on that dance floor, I hope you all stay safe and healthy. Thank you for listening, and please speak up for the places you love.